Hey, look at that. Live. Okay. I am Dan, the new DM. I was on earlier today. You might have noticed that. If not, all good. I was going to do my taxes today, and I need my spouse's info. So instead, I'm going to read this and have some coffee because that is my life. I, in a previous video, took a look at the playtest. Now, previously, I don't know how well you can read this, but up here in the UA, they had DnD 1 written up there. So it does seem like as they've released more content, they've kind of just slowly but surely gotten rid of that. I still have it in the title of the stream, but what can you do? Now, looks like they've put out all of the remaining classes on here, excluding it looks like they are excluding the Artificer from the base classes, because the previous one we had Wizard, Warlock, Sorcerer, Fighter, Barbarian. And now we have Bard, Cleric, Druid, Monk, Paladin, and Ranger, Rogue. I'd be curious if that means that, yeah, the Artificer is not going to be part of the base game. Which I would actually be surprised. The Artificer, it got released twice and was like the new class that they had. So I'm kind of surprised that they're not doing Artificer for this, but yeah. So let's take a bit of a peek here. I don't believe we'll get to everything. This is a 77-page document and I read slow. I might be doing a playtest stream with some of my players in the near future. So if that happens, it'll end up here on the channel, just to see how we like some of these changes. Character origins. UA character origins. I didn't look at this. This is old. Character races. So okay. So 2022, which depending on when this was released, I'm actually surprised to see character races still in here, because I know they've been planning on switching that out a little bit. Yeah, they were whole time. Hey, 1D&D written up top here. Look at that. So yeah. Human. Ardling? So is that replacing ASMR? Maybe? Dragonborn, dwarf, elf, elves of many worlds, what else? Gnomes, halfling, orc. So yeah, they've gone full orc as a race instead of the half orc, which kind of makes sense from what I've heard them doing. Character backgrounds, build your background. Okay, this is a complete aside, but I haven't read any of the UA stuff. I don't allow most UA stuff in my games. I did with some subclasses a while ago, which was a lot of fun, so I might open the doors to that a little bit, but I'll probably end up deleting that out of the final video. But, alright, so they are basically saying probably use that PDF, but you could use the book if you need to. If you do combine it with any previous one, use only the rules glossary found here. Yeah, so they're saying, hey, we've changed the rules from time to time. Stick to the latest one, which this only came out like a week ago, I think. So that makes sense. To play material, run or more special playtest sessions or integrate it into your campaign. Use a short adventure from a source like Keys to Golden Vault, Journey through the Radiant. Which I like this little inclusion here. This is important. So Keys in the Golden Vault search. So this is a Wizards of the Coast adventure for 5th edition. Now it is a pretty recent one. So a big problem 5e has had that I think is a problem, get rid of that, is power creep. Now, power creep isn't just, here's this new thing, it's really powerful. It's everything has inched up, and it has made, from what I've heard, some of the old modules a bit tricky to run. So chances are these newer modules have kind of accounted for that a bit. So they are probably, I would assume the CRs might be a little bit adjusted. I'm still holding out hope. And if anybody from Wizards of the Coast watches this, I would like to see some erratas, I think they're called, but like some corrections released for older modules of here are the stat blocks we would recommend using for monsters, because certain aspects like AC and DCs going to be pretty universal between old content and new content. Now they're claiming that the new player's handbook for 2024 is going to be fully backwards compatible, but with the power creep I have seen and with how powerful some of the previous released classes are, which they might, well, they're likely being amended anyway, I could see some adjustments being necessary. And I think putting those out so that people who have, say, Curse of Strahd, which is kind of my go-to for that type of thought, don't have to rebuy the book for whatever they call this edition of D&D, right? If they call it D&D 6th Ed and say it is mostly backwards compatible, I think that will be fine. If they call it 5e Advanced or 5e Reborn or whatever the hell, but if they just call it 5e, it's going to create a lot of problems. So I'm hoping they do something to differentiate it, but even then, the power creep I've seen makes some of the old adventures and books and stuff, they might run into some problems. So we'll see. The character options you read here might be more or less powerful than the originals. I doubt the less. Sorry. The design survives the playtest. We adjust its power to desirable level before publication. Yeah, feedback. They want feedback, which is good. They've actually been taking a lot of feedback, which is nice to see, especially with all of the issues that Wizards of the Coast has had in the past year with not listening to feedback or just not assuming feedback was necessary. So the more feedback they take, the better. I plan on sending them some feedback outside of just me reading through this stuff. If you read through this, I recommend you send your own feedback. Much like most things, if you just send a email to them saying you suck, they're just going to disregard it. So actually send something in of value to make them know that we want them to listen to our feedback. That is my little opinion in there. All right. Bard. This all sounds pretty straightforward. I'm about to make a bard myself. I might make it on stream once I know what I have available to me, because I'm not DMing. I don't get to make those calls, but this all sounds very much like a bard. I'm not seeing, just doing a quick speed read through, anything changed here. Design note, bard updates. Bardic Inspiration has returned to its 2014 form with the following changes. So be curious if like a previous UA changed this and I wasn't aware of it. Bardic Inspiration die is used in response to failing a D20. You no longer have to guess whether you failed. That is actually, that is a big change. It does devalue one of the bonuses for, I believe it's the Eloquence Bard, where if you use your Bardic Inspiration, well, actually no, it doesn't devalue it. I take that back. I was gonna say it devalued it because if you have failed, then you choose to add the dice. Because Eloquence Bard has a thing where if you use the dice and you still fail, you get to keep the dice. This doesn't change that. I misinterpreted that in my head. But this is actually really nice, especially from a DM's perspective. There's nothing worse than, oh, you miss, and then carrying on like, oh, but I have a Bardic Inspiration. Oh, but you have to declare that before you know the answer. And if the DM doesn't know you have a Bardic Inspiration, their job, my job as the DM, is to keep the action moving. So I'm not going to ask, do you have a Bardic Inspiration? Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Are you going to use it? No, you're going to save it? Okay, I'm not going to interrupt it for that. But if they're like, oh, I miss. Okay, and I start carrying, oh, but I have a Bardic Inspiration, and they use it? Sweet. Okay, so I basically had this at my table already, but it's nice to see that it's in the official rules that I quite like. Yeah. 2, a creature has up to an hour, not just 10 minutes to use the die. Really good. Much like some of the changes to Rage on Barbarians, making class features more usable outside of combat is always preferable, right? And this is really good for, like, say, hey, Rogue, you need to sneak into that building. I'm going to stand watch. Pat, pat, pat. Best of luck to you. Here's a Bardic Inspiration die for when you need it. Not having to rush of like, and I don't mean out of game rush, because you can say, okay, I hide in the closet, right? That doesn't take any time in game. But knowing, oh, if I hide in that closet, I'm gonna lose my Bardic Inspiration. Ugh. The healing option in the previous bar play has been removed because in playtest, the healing option was encouraging too much usage hoarding, which easily resulted in Bard not using inspiration at all. Yeah, and this is always an issue, the I might need it later. I'm the Final Fantasy player that would have 30 regular potions left by the end of the game that I just don't know what to do with because they don't actually heal enough for me to bother using them. But I didn't use them at the time because I might need them later, right? So this is nice that they've made changes to make sure, hey, use your stuff. That's good. Bardic Inspiration, Spellcasting, XP Jack of all trades, Bard subclass, Font of Inspiration, subclass feature, Counter Charm. I need 5E Bard. I need to compare some charts here. Good old Wikidot. Yeah, they got that there. Okay, and then class feature, etc. Now, from what I hear, they have streamlined subclass features so that they now all happen at the same levels. That's unfortunate, but understandable. Yeah, it makes, in one of the unfortunate realities is that the lining them all up so that it's pretty universal when subclass features happens makes a lot of sense for the 5e compatibility stuff, which I wish they didn't care as much about in some respects, but I can get behind in some others. All right, so I don't see... changes. Two noteworthy changes. Each bard gets to choose whether they use... Oh! I like this. I like this a lot. You get to choose Arcane, Divine, or Primal. That opens up some really interesting build sides of things in terms of like the theory crafting of, oh, I really want to, spiritual weapon and things like that, so that I have like some interesting damage options. Oh, I want to go pure arcane. Oh, I want to do right. The build idea is big here, but also the RP. Being able to have I have an idea in my head of a bard who comes from a barbarian village and plays like the war drums. This makes so much more sense having the primal spell list at my disposal from just an RP perspective. So I really like that. That is a big change. And again, I'm going from the 2014 or whatever Player's Handbook, not from the UA stuff. So maybe this has been a thing for a while, but ooh, I like that. And if you haven't seen my previous video, always remember, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. But I'm a big fan of this idea of 3 spell lists that, hey, you have access to this, instead of check the bard spell list, check the wizard spell list, check the sorcerers, and then having a spell list for each individual. This is sweet. Jack of all trades, return to 2nd level, cool. Subclass now matches the level progression of the original. Yeah, and that, oh, interesting. Okay, this one line has now shown me why they made this choice. I thought it was just a matter of, we didn't, like, for multi-classing stuff and for making sure that the this compatibility means I'm assuming they're saying you can use subclasses from other stuff, which also is a big deal, because if, say, you're playing a Explorer's Guide to whatever, right, and they have subclasses in them, this keeps it compatible with subclasses in those books. Instantly changed my mind on my annoyance around this. This makes perfect sense from, again, that compatibility, not just with like the old school stuff, right? Being able to, I like the old subclass. This keeps compatibility really nicely with other adventure books. So it's seeming more and more like they're not planning on forcing DMs to buy new adventure books if they want to run whichever, I always go Curse of Strahd in my head just because it's the one I can always remember. But yeah, they might re-release them with some different stat blocks or some updates and things like that. But yeah, being able to use subclasses from outside of the 2024 Player's Handbook, I really like that. I actually really like that. Okay. Font of Inspiration is level 5 and return to level 5. And it now also allows you to expend spell slots to use Bardic Inspiration if you're out of uses. Okay, we're going to have to read a bit of that. Counter Charm returns and has been improved, is now 7th level and can be used as a reaction rather than an action. Okay. We'll have to take a look at that. Magical Secrets has returned to 10th level and now affects your spell choice for all your later bard levels. I'll have to see what that means. Aha. Okay. They're getting rid of the epic boon feats. I found them confusing as to how they were actually going to implement them, so I'm assuming I wasn't alone. On top of that, giving back capstone features is good because Here's what I'm seeing here. We're returning to, hey, you get a capstone feature if you decide not to multi-class, because multi-classing generally ups your power level, so we kind of want to reward somebody for not straying too far away if they decide, like, reward more so we don't want to punish them for not taking some easy answers early on, even though, like I said, my bard is likely multi-classing, but we'll see. So giving us 20th level stuff could be fine, and then making the epic boons not being part of the class level progression. My assumption is they're going to weaken them a little bit, but you get them when you get one when you hit 20th level. That's my assumption. Yeah. Creating a bard. Everything looks saving throw. Simple weapons. Do they get any? No specific martial weapon stuff. I think that's pretty standard, pretty much the same. I like that they've kept this. Keep the multi-classing stuff right then and there. Yeah, don't change that. Class features, Bardic Inspiration. As they said, they did change things a little bit. Spell casting. First level, choose a spell list. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this stuff. Whichever list you choose, it includes Vicious Mockery cantrip. Just make it that they know it. Just give it to them. I don't know why they would. God. Anyway, you know 2 cantrips of your choice from the Bard spell list. I don't think there's anything broken about give them Vicious Mockery and then allow them to take 2 spells. I do find it interesting. So in a lot of the older ones, because bards were usually considered an arcane caster, unless you were like home ruling some things. But I don't believe had access to a lot of the damage cantrips, if my memory serves. To do bard's spell list. Good old Wikidot. Yeah, so a lot of good out-of-combat cantrips. Then they had Thunderclap and Vicious Mockery. Those were kind of your main things. And Vicious Mockery is a really interesting cantrip. I think it is a fun one. But being able to have your bard just have Firebolt because you decided to take Arcane and stuff, I think that's opens up some doors for making bards a little more damaging if they need it. Spells, preparing spells. You prepare your spell list first level higher. Spell list of first level and higher. They are available. When you start, choose your 4 first level spells from a spell list. The number of spells on your list also increases. This is one thing that I don't like that they did, but it's just because I'm stuck in my own verbiage. Preparing and known have now become basically the same thing, which if you're a new player isn't going to be a problem because you read this and it explains that, like, yeah, you basically know as many spells as you have available, and then whenever you can add more, you add another one, and that is what is always prepared, which makes sense because before we had some classes had known and prepared, some classes had known and didn't have prepared, and some classes had prepared and they just know all of the spells, right? So like a wizard has, here are all your spells known, here are the spells you can have prepared. A druid had, every spell and then you have to prepare X amount of spells. And then you had bards where you know these spells and they are always prepared. So just labeling everything, hey, prepared, but it works differently for each class, sort of, is fine. But it just hurts my brain because I'm not used to seeing it written that way. So that's fine. I don't care. Expertise, same as always. Jack of all trades looks to be the same as always. Bard subclass. Now, interestingly, before I had assumed that if you go with a subclass from, or if you go with the bard from this new UA, you are stuck with the subclasses available to you, but it sounds like that might not be the case. Now, for the playtest, I think they are going to stress, like, please play the subclasses from the playtest because they want to test the subclasses. But it is nice to see that they have tried to keep some backwards compatibility there, because if not, well, like, the backwards compatibility starts to wane in its usefulness. Anyway, so font of inspiration. We finish a short rest. In addition, if you have no uses of bardic inspiration left, you can give yourself one use by expending a spell slot. You can only do so once per turn. So it's important they say no action required, but they say once per turn. So it's not like use a spell slot to use bardic inspiration. It's I'm just going to convert a spell slot to bardic inspiration, and I can use that this turn, or I can use it next, or whatever. Yeah, that's I like that. I think that's a change. I can't remember though. Counter charm. If you are a creature with fails a saving throw against an effect that applies charmed or frightened condition, you can use your reaction to cause the save to be re-rolled, and the new roll has advantage. This wording is really important. Okay, counter charm was during this time, you and a friendly creature within have advantage on saving throws against being frightened or charmed. Yeah, this is improved greatly. This is actually sweet. So what this is saying is you can use your reaction to give somebody advantage on re-rolling. So if somebody rolls and had disadvantage for whatever reason initially, and that goes away, and they fail, but then you give them advantage on the next one, sweet. Being able to use it as a reaction instead of an action is really good. Which is especially nice, other than like Counterspell, for example. There's not too many reactions for bards that I think we need to be hanging on to it for. Yeah, this is really nice. It's worded very carefully to make it better. And re-rolled and at advantage. This is really nice as well, because it's not like a counter spell where I have to say, I use it when they start casting it. It's after the failed save happens, you can will them out of it. That is very handy. Doesn't look to have any limited things, so you can just do this all the time, which is nice, because I mean, it seems a little overpowered initially in my head until I remember that my paladin, it just made people immune to fear if they were near me. So yeah, that's perfectly fine for me. Expertise, magical secrets. Oh. This is a drastic change. So magical secrets in the past let you choose different classes to pull spells from. So you can choose 2 spells from any classes, including this one, and then you just have those. And then must be a level you can cast, blah, blah, blah. So this is a interesting thing. So you don't get any extra spells. So I'm hoping they added more. Let me see here. Prepared spells. This would be level 10, 15. 14. Okay. Okay. 22 in the end. 20. I'm at odds on this. I like this idea. So just to make things easier, rather than saying, hey, you get a certain amount of spells from a different spell list, it's like you can just pull spells from those other lists. Opens things up like crazy at 10th level in terms of spells available to you. So I think that counteracts losing the 2 extra spells that this would normally give you by giving you way more choices and the ability to, as you level and gain more known spells, swap things out and mess heavily. Yeah, I think that's a good choice. Ability score improvement or feat. They changed the language here. Because I think before it was just saying feat. And they've changed it to ability score improvement. I think this is for DM discretion purposes of DMs saying, oh no, we're not doing feats. We're just doing ability score increases. If feat is like written on the chart, it's a lot harder to make that call. So I don't mind it. I still would like them to find. I think it would end up making characters too powerful and would like quadruple the power creep that's going on. But I would almost like feats just to become inherent a bit more. But yeah, it's whatever. And then Words of Creation is moved to level 20 again. Cool. All right. Yeah, I'm liking the changes I'm seeing. It is a little bit limiting to lose the extra spells from magical secrets, but opening up the door to 2 more spell lists to pull from at 10th level, I think is a worthy sacrifice. I don't know 100%, but that's my inclination. Now, subclasses. Yeah, before getting into subclasses, yeah, Bard in general looks good. I like the change to Font of Inspiration. That's perfectly fine. Counter Charm is way better. And it's, yeah, the fact that you don't have any charges of it, it doesn't use your action, it uses your reaction, and that it is reroll after they have failed is great. Because oftentimes when it comes to Charmed and Frightened, they reroll at the end of their turn, which sucks, but makes sense. So by making this, you reroll as the turn is going on, you prevent somebody from losing their turn potentially. So it's a much more worthy use of the ability, and just overall is a positive step. Yeah. Awesome. All right, subclasses. So we've got College of Dance. This, to my knowledge, is completely new. I mean, it's a callback to some older stuff, but I don't believe there was a College of Dance in the previous editions. Or, well, in the previous 5e. I think there was College of Dance in some of the older editions. Bards of the College of Dance know the words of creation can contain within speech and even song. Okay, dazzling footwork gives you the ability to gracefully dodge and make agile strengths while you aren't wearing armor or wielding a shield. You gain the following benefits. Armor class is Dex plus Charisma. All right, that's sweet. I like that. I like that a whole lot. My brain starts going to a sorcerer bard multi-class with 3 levels in bard, so that you get your charisma modifier added to. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. Agile strengths. When you expend your bardic inspiration as part of an action, a bonus action, or a reaction, you can make 1 unarmed strike as part of that. Ooh. Unarmed strike, though. Interesting. I'm curious if they... unarmed strike. Unarmed strike has maybe changed a bit. 1 plus your strength mod. I don't know about this. So, as your bard, dealing with mostly dexterity and with dexterity and charisma, which is what you need to jack your AC up. All of these are strength based. Now, I do like that they have changed it so that an unarmed strike isn't just, oh, I hit him, and instead of taking an unarmed strength, I choose to grapple. Instead of taking I choose to shove. It is now just lumped in together. It doesn't even necessarily say that you don't have to have a weapon in hand to do it. Which is good. Yeah, so you can choose as part of giving your bardic inspiration to try to grapple somebody or to try and shove somebody. That is actually interesting. But I'm curious now if these agile strengths eventually become... Oh, next line. You can use your dexterity instead of strength for attack rolls. When you deal damage, you can deal bludgeoning damage equal to a roll of your bardic inspiration die plus dexterity. This doesn't expend. Okay, this is a classic case of I just need to. It's a really unfortunate page turn, because in my head I instantly went, okay, this is cool. Now you can choose still what I was reading before to do unarmed strike as I'm going to do a grapple or a push. But the fact that I can choose, because at even level 3, yeah, a D6 instead of the D1. And I mean, like when you're higher level, like a D12 plus that. Well, the higher level, that's not as. You'd probably be doing things a little bit different at that point. But yeah, or turning this into a D6 as the unarmed strike, which strikes me as I'm going to give a cool dance to inspire my friend. And while I do so, I'm going to kick you in the head or push you back. Or, right? I would like to see. Actually, okay. It's saying for your attack rolls. Now, are the wrong button. Yeah. You make an attack roll against the target. Target must succeed on a strength or dexterity saving throw. That's actually cool. Where grapple, because it used to be, okay, so then you have to use acrobatics or what was it? Acrobatics or athletics, and you would get to pick. Now it's you have to choose strength or dexterity, and you get to pick. DC for your saving throw equals 8 plus your strength plus proficiency. One change I would make, because if you're going to make the attack an option, I would allow dexterity to be used as the saving throw for this class. I don't see that in here because you can use it for the attack rolls, but I don't see it for the DC side of it or the saving throw side. So I'd like to see a change there. Yeah. And then more. Hey, inspiring movement. When an enemy you can see ends its turn within 5 feet of an ally of yours who is within 60 feet of you, use your reaction to spend a bardic inspiration or reaction to. Okay, cool. To move up to half your speed. You then roll the inspiration die, and the ally can move up to the number of feet equal to 5 times the number rolled. None of this provokes opportunity attacks. That is some battlefield maneuverability. It's interesting because it's like you still have to use the die. I like that. I need to go quiet a bird down because that's going to be ruining a lot of this. I mean, you can walk through. You can walk through. You can come and get your controller cable. Ugh. Okay, where the heck did I leave off? Ugh. Yeah, so inspiring movement. I quite like this. It doesn't provoke the opportunity attacks. It lets you reposition stuff on the battlefield. This is really nice, especially if you're like me and you do not play with flanking. If you do, this becomes very, very overpowered very, very quickly. If you don't play with flanking, then this becomes very, very useful, but not overpowered. And yeah, being able to like, they are surrounded by enemies. I got to get them out of there, right? This is really cool. I like it. Leading evasion. When you're subject to an effect that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw, to take only half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw. Take only half damage if you fail. Oh, so it's you can share this benefit with them for that save. So this is just a thing that happens when you're subject to an effect that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw or to take only half damage. This is like a beef to hell evasion. Okay, get out of my way here. All right. Oh. I thought, for some reason, I might be thinking of Uncanny Dodge. I thought that you had to choose to do it. Being able to share this with others is really cool. That's actually really neat. They also get tandem footwork. When you roll initiative, you can spend 1 use of your bardic inspiration if you don't have the incapacitated condition. When you do so, roll your bardic inspiration die and choose a number of creatures within 60 feet of yourself, and you can choose yourself for up to a number equal to your charisma modifier. They gain a bonus to the roll equal to the number rolled. You can spend 1 use of your bardic inspiration if you don't have the incapacitated condition. You so roll your bardic and choose a number of creatures. Oh, I see. That's cool. There aren't very many there aren't very many things that drastically affect initiative. That's why it took me a second or two to read this. I'm like, what are they adding it to? Oh, right. It says it in the first line. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm liking this subclass. This is a lot of fun. Irresistible Dance. You always have Otto's Irresistible Dance prepared. You can cast it without expending a spell slot. Once you cast a spell in this way, you can't do so again to... Okay, so yeah, it's like a free spell. That's fine. Can also restore use of this feature by expending 4 uses of your bar. That's a lot. What is this spell? Choose 1 creature within range. Oh, it's a 6th level spell. Okay, that makes sense. This is another thing I like, is that the charmed is a condition and then they add it to the spell, because there were a lot of times where it's like, is this considered a charm spell? I actually don't know. And then like DMs have to determine it, so I'm hoping they change this a bit. Must use its movement to dance without leaving its space, and has disadvantage on, say, dex saving throws and attack rolls. They have advantage against it. As an action, dancing creature can make a wisdom saving throw to regain its control. So they... Ooh, this... Yeah, okay. So, 6th level spell. You get it... You can cast it once for free. At first, I'm like, whatever. You get the spell without having to use any of your now diminished spell pool. So that's cool. But... yeah, it is definitely neat It doesn't have like a dominate person where like it doesn't affect certain things. As long as they're not immune to charm, it just can hit them. Um, Interesting. So it also just works by the sound of it. Now they may have changed it. I know the UA here has spells in it. I haven't got to that section yet, but so we'll see if they change the spell at all. But it just works, and then they have to use their action to try to end it. So it sounds like a pretty powerful spell. It is concentration, so it's a good thing that they say that you cast it, not just that it's a class thing. Which again, I talked about this before in some of the previous ones, that them moving to more of a class features are a spell. Like I'm going to be very intrigued as to what I see under Druid in that regard. But we'll see. Yeah, that's really cool. I actually really like that subclass. I wasn't expecting to. It's one of the few things I heard a little bit about. Was I clicked on I think it was Instructor Boy's stream, and they were in the middle of talking about it, and I was like, no, I don't want to see yet. I'm gonna catch up on his takes later because I want to form my own opinions. Yeah. Which, if he ever watches this, you're the inspiration for me finally getting off my butt and doing this. But doing a bit more in the style of your things of I'm going to live stream it and then pick it apart. Might do some dedicated scripted stuff later, but this just lets me get my feet wet a little bit. All right, College of Glamour. Based on the Feywild bards who study the alrighty. Design notes. So this one did appear in Xanathar's, but they changed a bit of stuff. Mantle of Inspiration now grants a number of temporary hit points determined by the roll of Bardic Inspiration. Okay, I might need to know what the original was to care. Bonus action, you can spell use of Bardic Inspiration. When you do so, you choose number of creatures, and they gain up to your Charisma modifier. Number of creatures equal to your Charisma modifier. They gain 5 temporary hit points, and this goes up to 8, 11. Okay, so let me get rid of that and that just so I can click back and forth a bit quicker. I have to see. That sounds like a nerf, which could be fine. Sometimes that is a necessity. As a potential to do more, but I also generally like stuff that makes you roll for what it does versus just it happens and works, because the stuff that happens and works, we tend to just do it and then we ignore the stuff that has increased chance, and the chance stuff makes things a bit more interesting. Beguiling Magic, formerly Enthralling Performance, has been redesigned to focus on chanting your enchantment and illusion spells. Okay, so when I see Beguiling Magic, to look up Enthralling Performance. Now in Mantle of Majesty, now ensures you always have command spell prepared, and you can restore your use of the feature by expending a spell slot of 3rd level or higher. Okay, Unbreakable now triggers on a creature hitting you and negate it. Alright, so Beguiling Magic is the big one that changed. So what did it do before? Enthralling Performance. If you perform for at least 1 minute, you can attempt to inspire wonder of the audience. Let's see. At the end of the performance, choose a number of humanoids within 60 feet and listen to you. Charisma fire. Each target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your spell. They would be charmed. While charmed in this way, it idolizes you. Suppose you avoided violence unless it is already inclined to fight on your behalf. 1 hour. Sorry, succeeds. That's important that it had no hint. Okay. Just as if I can't use it until a longer short rest. Okay, so now, in addition, you always have Charm Person and Mirror Image spell prepared. In addition, immediately after you cast an enchantment or illusion spell. Oh, this is a complete redesign. You can cause a creature within 60 feet of yourself to make a wisdom save against your spell DC. On a failed save, the target has the charmed or frightened condition, your choice. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of its turn, ending the effect. Finish a long rest. You can also restore by expending 1 use of your Bardic Inspiration. No action required. All right, so that's kind of cool. Like, it's just kind of built in to it. Instead of just saying, hey, at 3rd level you have these spells, it's like, no, it's part of this thing. So you get Charm Person and Mirror Image. That's cool. So 2 free spells. And then when you cast an enchantment or illusion, which I believe Charm Person is enchantment, Mirror Image is illusion. Could be wrong. Yeah, so you can charm and or frighten, or frighten, not and, for 1 minute. This seems far more useful. Like, even so, if I cast Charm Person on a guard and there's 2 guards, I can give the charmed condition to the other guard. Yeah, this is, I think, more useful. It doesn't say. I'll have to check the charmed condition in general. Same thing with the frightened condition. It doesn't say whether they know that they were affected by the spell. That needs clarification. I'm gonna make a note of that. It doesn't say, because on a lot of charmed spells, it says whether or not they know that the spell ended or that they know it was cast on them. And I have had to build some house rules specifically around that. So, for example, if a charm spell says that when it ends, the creature knows that it was charmed, then I also say if they resist it, they know they were charmed. And vice versa. If they wouldn't know, as long as they don't see you cast the spell, they may not know that a spell was cast on them, is kind of my homebrew around that. So very important, though, to know, because if you charm, say, those guards for 1 minute, and then the charm wears off, do they instantly know, hey, you've been screwing with my head? Or is there potential that, like, yeah, no, I've been chatting with these guards, they're starting to like me more, they don't really remember why they let me in the first place, but now they're, right? Yeah, so I'll have to see, unless the charmed condition specifies that, I wonder. Unless it's listed somewhere on one of these other spots. Yeah, they have to clarify that, unless I'm just missing it. Mantle of Inspiration. Now this was equal to Charisma 5. Oh, it's 2 times the number rolled. So no matter what, it's a minimum 2, but has a potential for up to 6? Or no, potential for up to 12 at level 3? And then each of them uses its reaction to move up to its speed. This is... That's buffed to hell. I thought it was nerfed. They've made this way better. That might be a bit overpowered. If you roll high enough, right? If you roll a 1, not a big deal. Everybody gets 2 temporary hit points, but then they can use their reaction to move. And it's minimum 1 creature, but like at this level, you probably have +2, maybe +3. But this this could be a little broken because yeah, if it's 2 times the number on the die, if you're rolling a d6 and you roll a because would it be a d6 at this level? Yeah. You roll a 6, all of a sudden you've given 3 party members 12 hit point or temporary hit points at level 3. That can be ridiculous. So that could be really powerful early on. I have a suspicion it probably falls off a bit as you go, but yeah, early on that. But even later on, you roll a 10 on that and give like at that point 5 party members 10 or 20 temporary hit points. That's real hefty. Now it doesn't say how long the temporary hit points last. I know that generally speaking, you gain and lose. I think you keep them until a long rest. Or until you take damage. Kind of thing. All right. Anyway, Mantle of Majesty. Now, is this one changed? Ensures you have the command. Okay. So before, you can cast command without expending a spell slot as a bonus action. And you take the appearance of the beauty for 1 minute until the concentration ends. During this time, you can cast command as a bonus action without expending a spell slot. Any creature charmed automatically fails a saving throw against command. Interesting. Okay. So it's bonus action, you cast command without expending a spell slot. And take on an unearthly appearance for 1 minute. Interestingly, Unearthly Beauty was the original. Now it's just an unearthly appearance. That's an important change in the words because you probably have more of a control over what the appearance is. Any creature charmed by you automatically fails its saving throw against command. Does command give the charmed condition? Do not know. I'll be interested to see if command gives the like I have a suspicion. Right now what I'm seeing is you have to charm them first and then you can use your bonus to cast command. Which Beguiling Magic gives you a way to charm, and you always have charm person prepared. and now you always have command prepared, which I don't think a lot of these subclasses used to give you a bunch of free spells. So I have a suspicion that is why they changed the nature of how many spells you got from the base class, because you're getting a bunch of spells, or they vice versa. Maybe they were like, okay, we want to do this to the base class, so we should throw some spells in that you have. So then you don't have to, oh, I guess I'm getting Mantle of Majesty, but I didn't plan on getting Command. Now I have to take Command at 6th level. And it's like, no, you just get it. So that's good. Same thing with getting a few, because even though these aren't, well, Charm Person kind of is a necessity for this thing, but not even really, because it's any illusion or enchantment spell. But having those included is really nice, so I'm for it. Yeah, this I'd have to see it in use to know how good this is. It strikes me as a very out of combat thing, because it looks and or sounds to me like you have to I mean, the fact that you can cast it as a bonus action and they automatically fail their saving throw against it, this could be a really interesting crowd control spell. Automatically failing the saving throw, though, anything with a what's it called? Legendary resistance can end this, so this does cease in some of those instances. So if you manage to, I managed to charm them and blah blah blah, and it comes to their turn and like they automatically fail, you can then, as the DM, counteract this by having which at 6th level they wouldn't be running into too much, but they would later. Unbreakable Majesty doesn't look to have. Now triggers on a creature hitting you and can negate the hit. Magical Majestic Presence for 1 minute or until you have an incapacitated condition. For the duration, whenever a creature hits you with an attack roll for the first time on a turn, the attacker must succeed on a charisma saving throw, or the attack misses instead. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's... what did it do before? Oh, when it tries to hit you versus when it hits you. Oh, yeah, this is a huge buff. Instead of negating or making it harder for the first attack attempt, it is now just making the first attack a successful attack. So if you get attacked 5 times in your turn and the 6th one hits, right? So say I throw a shield up and make it really hard to hit me, and then the 6th one hits and nothing else did, then I can negate that, or have a chance of negating that. And that's for a minute, so this just keeps going. It doesn't have concentration or anything like that. It is interesting to me that this isn't a spell. So I'd be curious to know. Like I said, a lot of this stuff has moved to more spell-based versus class-based stuff. This has kind of gone the opposite route, where now we have a lot of class-based stuff that lets you cast spells, which I'm kind of for, but I'm surprised. Although Bard has always been a little bit of a weird casting class. So College of Lore, this was in the playtest previously. Bonus proficiencies has now gone back to allowing any skill. Cutting words can once more reduce damage. Okay. Magical discoveries, form we call additional magical secrets, has returned. Place one of the chosen spells each time you gain a bard level. Peerless skill. Okay, you learn. Well, in my head, cutting words was always just a bard thing. But I guess it's specific to the subclass now. Anyway, you learn how to use your wit. Any creature. And subtract from. Yeah, that sounds the same as before. I mean, this is probably a cool subclass, but it doesn't have a lot of changes. 6th level, you gain 2 spells of your choice from Arcane, Divine, or Primal. Which, again, I'm perfectly fine with this. Instead of, hey, here you can learn something from the Wizard spell list, or the Warlock spell list, or the... it is just straight up, hey, here's the 3 that you have at your disposal. And yeah, this is sort of magical secrets from 10th level in that you can, but now instead of just you have access to them, you just get them right away. You always have them prepared. Okay, yeah. Peerless skill. Oh yeah, it's one of those things. This class doesn't seem, or subclass doesn't seem all that intriguing to me, so I'm kind of writing it off a little bit. Like I said, I'm actually surprised cutting words, because I thought cutting words was just a thing bards got prior. But I guess I was wrong. Unless Lore Bard. Well, actually, you know what it probably is? Lord Bard is just like an OG one that I'm forgetting about, and I'm used to seeing bards playing that have cutting words. All right. College of Valor. This one's been around a while. All right. Main updates since the player's handbook. Martial training, formerly bonus proficiencies. Focus on. Allows you to use a weapon as a spellcasting focus. That's cool. Combat inspiration has 2 changes. The defense options is now triggered by being hit. And the offense option works with attacks of any kind, not just weapon attacks. So basically, anytime you make a... Okay, so... Yeah, so an attack roll, I'm guessing that a spell attack counts now. And they say not just weapon attacks, unarmed strikes would work as well. Cool. Then it sounds like for the most part, yeah, so this is when you are hit. So again, they're moving to the you can make the choice after the fact, which is good. Generally speaking, I would always prefer that, because again, as a DM, I will roll the dice, and I usually will say, I won't say that they make an attack roll and then roll the die and then ask if they're going to use their inspiration. I will say, I rolled a 22. And then that would get them to make the choice. So I was already kind of doing this, but they're doing it now for BLZs, so that's good. Martial training, medium weapons and armor, shields. So you can use your weapon as a spellcasting focus. I would be curious to know, because you can use it as a focus. That means you can cast spells while wearing a shield without using Warcaster. Because that's a rule I often ignore, which makes Warcaster pretty much like it diminishes its usefulness in some of my campaigns, but well, they get extra attack. Cool. That's cool. Yeah, a lot of this stuff I think is carryover. Cool. So, overall impressions for Bard and their subclasses. Yeah, it looks good. The Dancer intrigues the crap out of me, which I wasn't expecting. But then the returning ones, I don't have a lot of interest in. I don't know why. I mean, it looks like they made Valor better. And Valor was already pretty sweet. I know it was a very popular choice. So, who am I to say? Lore, I don't... well, Lore is the caster one, right? It's like, I want to cast more spells. So, they've kept that up. And maybe I'm just underwhelmed by it because it is very similar to the old one. And I'm more interested in what the new stuff is, the shiny new things. But if they're making the old stuff better, no complaints there. Yeah, I like what I see on the Bard overall. I just dig it. Now, the next one on here is the good old Cleric. Primary ability, Wisdom. Okay, so they've updated since the last playtest version, but I didn't see the last playtest version of Cleric, so this will be a lot of new stuff for me. Divine Order has been moved from second to first. Thaumaturgy option has been redesigned to include elements from former... Okay. Spell preparation is no longer tied to the level of your spell slots. I'll actually have to read spellcasting now to know what the heck they're saying there. Divine Order, Channel Divinity, Cleric subclass, ability score improvement. Now, goodbye, Bard. Interesting. This sounds like an overhaul. Now, it's probably not an overhaul from the previous playtest material, but in the original Cleric, you picked your subclass at first level because that was your divine domain. It's sounding now like you pick your divine order, which is probably your domain, but then the subclass is actually separate from it, but probably connected. Now, interestingly, that opens up possibly some doors that we might get to, so I'm intrigued by that. Subclass feature, channel divinities, spells prepared. Now, they should, unless they majorly changed spellcasting for them, clerics were, you know all the spells, and then you prepare X amount per day. So let's see if that is changed. So, has returned to second level, and its number of uses has now increased with your, or uses now increases with your cleric level. I like that. Isn't based on proficiency bonus. Oh, okay. Because what? Channel divinity. Oh, before it had its own thing, they probably moved it to proficiency bonus to try and make it just have it level up a bit differently, and then realized that it made it really powerful for multi-classing, so they moved it to cleric level. Okay. Multi-class. Speaking of, anyway, so you regain one use whenever you finish a short rest. I'm okay with that. The healing damage of Divine Spark has also changed, and Turn Undead now uses the incapacitated and frightened conditions. Multi-classing Ibar has... Okay. cleric subclass now matches level progression. Yeah, so they've moved it so that it matches the OG, except that it actually starts at 3rd, but that's why they have the thing at level 1 for the cleric, because you can't just pick your domain at level 3 if you've been like worshiping for however long, right? Commune is a new 9th level feature. I wonder if this is replacing the spell commune, or if you just have the spell commune always prepared now or something like that. Improved Blessed Strikes is a new 14th level feature. Blessed Strikes now lets you choose Divine Strike or Potent Spell Casting. Gave you one of those features. Now get a choice. I remember this. I think this was like a Tasha's edition. Smite Undead now uses Wisdom modifier rather than your proficiency bonus. Good change. Okay, Divine Intervention and Greater Divine Intervention have been redesigned to allow reliable results. Okay, interesting. And Greater Divine Intervention is now the capstone feature. Okay. Multi-classing, they said they made a change to Channel Divinity. If you have more than one class with a Channel Divinity features, a class's uses of the feature can be expanded only on that class's Channel Divinity options. Okay, yeah, that's just a clarifying thing. That's important though. But if you don't know what that means, so if you have, say, you multi-class into Paladin, they both have Channel Divinities, they're kind of like their own thing, even though they have a similar name, is I think what they're trying to go for here. Okay. Everything else looks to be about the same. Let's get into it. So Divine Order. One of the following sacred roles of your choice. Protector. Gives you a bonus to your religion check. Okay, so I want to go like the war cleric thing, or I want to go more of a caster cleric thing. That's okay. Spell casting. Slots, prepared spells. They said they made a change here. You prepare from a list of spells, 1st level and higher, that are available for you to cast with this feature. To start, you choose 4 1st level spells from the number of spells on your list also increases as you level. Must be of a level for which you have spell slots. If a cleric's feature gives spells that you always have prepared, those spells don't count against the total number. Preparing or changing spells. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can change your list to prepared spell, replace one or more. Requires time spent, at least 1 minute per spell over for you. Yeah, so this is just, they've kind of clarified. I think this is kind of how it used to be anyway, but just in case you, I woke up. What spells do I have prepared for the day? Well, you have the same spells as yesterday until you sit down and like once per day. I would almost say, I'm starting to change my mind on this a little bit. Instead of once you finish a long rest, I think once per day you should be able to just meditate and change your spells out, but you can only do it once per. You only get the feature back once per long rest. I think that could increase some versatility of like, I don't have this spell prepared today. Okay, I need like 5 minutes, guys. It's a 5th level spell. I got to get it out. I wonder if that's a change they'd ever make. That's something I would be intrigued by. I might add that to my feedback. Spell casting ability, spell casting focus. Yeah, I'm not seeing what they're saying was like a change. Spell preparation is no longer tied to the level of your. Oh, it was my guess, because I think it might be a leftover thing from the previous playtest, they probably had like, oh, if you have a 4 first and 2 second, you can only prepare 4 first and 2 second, where now it's like you can prepare whatever the heck you want. So you can have 6 first level spells and cast a few of them at second level. I think that's kind of what they're going for. Yeah, I could be wrong though. Like I said, I didn't see the original of this. All right. Second level channel divinity. Start with 2 effects: Divine Spark and Turn Undead. We gain 1. Now, did they have Divine Spark or anything like that before? Turn Undead. An effect determined by your domain. Okay, so Divine Spark is replacing that, and then you probably get more once you pick your subclass. That's my guess, which isn't a bad decision, because again, then it's making multi-classing more standard. Of like, no, if you want these subclass features, they happen at 3rd level, but you get some stuff at level 1, some stuff at level 2, some stuff at level 3. I'll be intrigued to see how they adjust Warlock now that they've basically made it a standard 3/4 caster. Because right now it does get a lot of stuff at level 1 and a bit less stuff at 2, but then a bunch, like, they've kind of done something similar. Anyway, you regain 1 extended spell slot use when you finish a short rest. Or spend use. I don't know why I said spell slot use. DC from your spellcast. Okay, Divine Spark is a magic action. Yay. Holy Symbol, another creature you can see. Roll 1d8 and add your Wisdom modifier. You either restore hit points or force the creature to make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, they take necrotic or radiant damage, your choice. Damage is equal to that total. On a successful save, they take half as much, rounded down. It is neat that they can make you decide between necrotic and radiant, but not have it dictated. So if you're fighting undead, you can use radiant. But if you're fighting something else, you can decide to use necrotic, which is cool because clerics, the whole thing is that a lot of their spells are necrotic. They just don't like to admit it. You can roll an additional d8 when you reach certain levels. Cool. Turn Undead is the big change is it's frightened and incapacitated for 1 minute. And it ends early if they take damage, or if you are incapacitated or dead. So that's cool. That's a nice change, because frightened was always kind of it works, but having it frightened and incapacitated makes it much better. You gain your subclass: life, light, trickery, or war. Yeah, so this is a case of I don't think the new clerics will be compatible with the old subclasses because of how they worked, because they gained a lot of this stuff at level 1. But again, streamlines things better for multi-classing, because then 1 level dips in cleric aren't as ridiculous in some respects because you're not gaining the subclass at level 1. We'll see. Now I'm more intrigued by druid. Ability score improvement. Yeah, they've sticking to that. Smite Undead. You can use your Turn Undead feature to smite. Whenever you use Turn Undead, you can roll a d8 or a number of d8s equal to your wisdom mod and add those rolls together. Each undead that fails its saving throw against the turn undead takes radiant. So I wonder if this is replacing destroy undead. I think that's the case. Because that was like, if they're under a certain thing, they just die, which made it really cool against like, oh, this necromancer sent a bunch of zombies at me. I wipe them all out. But now I can use this, and it's like when you turn undead, this just happens, so it doesn't take anything additional. So subclass feature, Blessed Strikes. Gain one of the following: Divine Strike. Once in each of your turns, when you hit a creature with an attack. It's once on each of your turns, so doesn't sound as good as Paladin's Improved Divine Smite, which is fine, although I'm curious if theirs has changed to this once on each of your turns as well, because Improved Divine Smite was ridiculous. Potent Spell Casting basically gives you extra damage on your cantrips, which this is actually sweet. And it's not on attack rolls. This actually really opens up the doors for clerics, because in the past, I think it's Agonizing Blast on Warlock was like super important, because you let you add your modifier to a cantrip, which normally you don't get to do. So as a druid, as a cleric, being able to add to any of them, right? You cast Toll the Dead, or if you cast what is the other one? The fire one, Divine Fire or something. Spear. Why can't my brain? It's been a long day. Spiritual Flame. I know I'm close. I've said everything except for the right answer. Sacred Flame. Oh, my brain. So yeah, being able to add your wisdom modifier to any of the above, that's actually sweet. Now, unlike Eldritch Blast, where you cast multiple beams and you add it to each of them, this isn't as big as that, because usually it's like, oh, you're adding 2d8s, and then you would add your wisdom modifier once. So it's not as powerful, but it is actually quite nice. Ability score improvement, Commune. You always have the Commune spell prepared. Is that it? Curious now if that is a druid only spell. Or druid. I'm looking forward to druid, as it turns out. If that is a cleric only it doesn't appear to be. It doesn't appear to be. Well, maybe when I get to spells, I will change that. But yeah, it appears you just have it and then don't have to ever worrying about the spell again, which is nice, I guess, but not all that powerful. Now, Divine Intervention, they've changed, so this could be a big deal. Divine Intervention, you can call on your deity or pantheon to intervene on your behalf. As a magic action, choose your divine spell. Any divine spell of 5th level or higher or lower that doesn't require a reaction to cast. As part of the same action, you can cast that spell without expending a spell slot or needing material components. I'd be curious. So at first I'm like, oh, this is terrible. They got rid of like Divine Intervention was like really cool and weird, and that's what made it interesting. So as long as it doesn't require a reaction to cast, As a magic action, you choose any divine spell, 5th level or lower, that doesn't require reaction. As part of the same action, you cast that spell without expending a spell slot or needing material components. You can't use this feature again until you finish a long rest. So, this does mean certain resurrection spells can just be cast without the material components now. You don't have to have the spell prepared. So this lets you, okay, this opens up some interesting doors and leads me to some interesting questions. If the spell takes more than an action to cast, not a reaction, more than an action. So, for example, what do we got? Clairvoyance isn't a good example. Glyph of Warding. Let's say Glyph of Warding is on that list. Normally it takes an hour to cast. It's a 3rd level spell. I think you can just cast it in an action now. Because it normally takes 200 gold, which it consumes, or 200 of powdered diamond. That doesn't matter. You can't cast it at the higher levels because it's 5th level or higher. Or 5th level or lower. So you cast it at 3rd level still, but I think you could cast Glyph of Warding for free, and I think it would be instant. As part of the same action, you cast the spell. So I think you can cast stuff instantly, which is super powerful. You can only do it once per long rest. But then you also can cast certain spells that require components, right? And so out of combat, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Again, they may, not all these spells I have on here work that way. Being able to cast Scrying instantaneously outside of combat could be really cool. I wonder. If that means like something like Hollow. You can basically create hallowed ground around you kind of thing, but using divine intervention to cause it to happen. Normally takes 24 hours. Can you instantly cast this? I'm going to be asking them about that. If that's the case, it could be overpowered as hell in certain situations. If it's not the case, if it's like, no, it requires, because it strictly says that you cast it as part of this action. As part of the same action, you cast a spell without expending a spell slot or needing material components. Can't use this feature again. Yeah, so you can cast, like, and again, it's a divine spell. So it's anything from the divine spell list that doesn't require a reaction. So I'm assuming that means, because, like, the way that these at least used to be listed was casting time, 1 action, reaction, or X amount of minutes. So it sounds like you can just do it. Yeah. So there's like few things you can do almost instantaneously. You can only do it once per day. So it's not too broken, but like they're now assuming some, like it's from the divine list, so it's not specifically from the cleric list. So I'd be curious to know if there are some specific cleric spells, like if they've moved some of, because with the wizard, they had to severely differentiate between the wizard spell list and the arcane spell list, because the wizard can manipulate their spells and they become a wizard spell. I'll have to see what where is the divine spell list on here versus the cleric. We're skipping ahead because I need to know this info. Now this is like a 77-page thing. Okay. Ranger things, rogue thing. I'm getting probably close. I kept seeing stuff that looked like it might be spells. Spells. Updates to the arcane spell list listed there. Divine spell list. Smite spells have been removed from the list except for Searing Spite, Wrathful Spite. Because those were moved back to Paladin specifically. Fine Steed is now Paladin exclusive. Yeah, that makes sense. Because that spell is broken and overpowered if they didn't change it heavily. Okay. Primal spells. Okay. Do they have... And then they get into this stuff. Okay, so... Interesting. So yeah, my interpretation, unless they screwed something up, is that yeah, you can cast this takes 24 hours to cast spell instantaneously and it just works. Because the old Divine Intervention, if you haven't played with a cleric or if you haven't played a cleric, was like you would roll and see if you rolled under, you'd roll a D100, and if you rolled your level or under, craziness would happen. But you could go almost entire campaigns without Divine Intervention doing anything. So that is nuts. That could be broken. I'll have to see what other people's interpretations of it are to make sure I'm not off the wall on that. But I think you can just instantaneously cast stuff that would normally take you up to 24 hours, and you can cast them without expending components. So things like, oh, I don't have Revivify prepared for today, or oh, we don't have it. Like you died, and I don't have a diamond, but I've got Divine Intervention. All right, you're back, right? So this could be like a whole lot of fun in like very circumstantial, oh my god, I can do this craziness. And I'm okay with that. It could be game breaking, but because you can only do it once per day, it's probably fine. Improve Blessed Strikes. The one that you chose gets more powerful. You cast the Divine Cantrip to deal damage creature with it. Granting a temporary hit points equal to twice your wisdom mod. Oh, that's cool. All right. Subclass feature, ability score improvement. Greater Divine Intervention. Oh, you're able to call on more powerful Divine Intervention. When you use your Divine Intervention feature, you can choose Wish when you select a spell. If you do, you can't use Divine Intervention again until you finish 2d4 long rests. When you cast Wish with this feature, you are immune to the stresses caused by Wish to do something other than casting a spell. That also opens up some really interesting doors. For starters, Wish lets you cast other spells. So you can cast a spell that is bonkersly different than what you have available to you. So that's really cool. As well as then, yeah, you can... Yeah, like they're really making Wish a thing. Sorcerers can use Wish a whole bunch because, again, it's about... Wish is an interesting spell because it's not just, I make a wish and it happens. It's, here's a bunch of crazy stuff you can do with this spell. Like, it's a really, really weird, powerful spell with a lot of options to it. And making it more and more and more available and making it used more and more and more for these, like in the place of like trying to roll and see if something happens. Yeah. And 20th level capstone thing, I think that's just fine. I think that's great. Cool. Well, that is cleric itself. I am going to take a look through the subclasses in a moment, but I need to use the facilities and whatnot. So I'm going to mute myself for a bit here, and I'll be right back. Oh, and I'm back. All right. Unmuted. Recording. Cool. So, subclasses. Now, it is interesting to me that they have somewhat separated the cleric class from their subclasses. Now they did make you choose your divine order to start, where whether you are protector or thaumaturge. So that's interesting to me. But let's see what they did with the subclasses now that they are more streamlined to match up with the other classes. So, greater divine intervention is where we left off. So, life domain, classic healer. Domain updates. Domain spells once again includes first level spells, and Prayer of Healing has been replaced by Aid. Alright, that makes sense. So my guess is because in the olden days, when you got your subclass at level 1, it came with certain spells that you would always have prepared, and now because it's a level 3, it probably didn't. So it probably retroactively adds some first level spells to always have prepared. Disciple of Life is now clearer that its extra hit points are based on the spell slot expended. Preserve Life has been redesigned to give more flexibility in how you protect yourself and others. Healing spells are almost all abjuration spells, which is funny. They used to be necrotic, but they've moved away from that in recent years. All right. Yeah, so they changed them now. So the revised feature applies to almost all defensive and healing spells on the divine list, which makes sense from a mechanical perspective. I do always like the lore of healing spells being necrotic, but opening it up so that it works better with other things is fine. Blessed Healer is now clearer that its extra hit points are based on the spell slot. Divine Strike has been replaced by Blessed Strikes in the base class. Okay, so this just doesn't exist. Supreme Healing now applies to Channel Divinities as well as spells. All right. Level 3, Domain Spells. So yeah, they added a few spells back in by the look of it, because you get 4 spells. And yeah, they're always prepared. Don't count against your spell cap. Mass Healing Word Revivify, War of Life, Death, War. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that all looks pretty standard. And Power of Life itself, when you cast a spell with spell, when a spell you cast with a spell slot restores hit points, they regain additional hit points equal. Creature regains additional hit points on the turn you cast the spell. Oh, okay. So that's to clarify. I see. That's what they mean by clarify. So if there's a spell that heals additionally every time, interestingly, I think this gets rid of the Life Cleric Goodberry loophole, where you would add a bunch to every time. Hit points equals 2 plus the spell slots level. Yeah, so Goodberry that normally heals like 1 hit point would heal like 3. And I think it would actually level up as you went. Because yeah, life is like the OG. Yeah, it is a bit of a different prepared spell off the gate, but that's okay. Yeah, 2 plus the spell's level. So this does seemingly fix that, because it does it on the turn that the spell is cast. So something like Goodberry that heals every time somebody eats it no longer can do that exploit, which is fine by me, because I was like, well, why would like one of my players was considering taking a level in Druid specifically for the Goodberry thing because they wanted the extra healing without having. And I'm like, why not just not? Just take a short rest, guys. But this yeah, this also solves it for things like Aura of Life, which I think used to be a paladin only one where you would heal as part of your bonus action for up to a minute. That would get real ridiculous now that it's available to everybody on the divine list. So yeah, preserve life. But yeah, long story short, I like this change because it clarifies things and makes the weird exploity stuff that was like manipulating the rules a bit non-existent. So I'm good with that. As part of casting a prepared abjuration spell from the divine spell list, important. You can expend uses of Channel Divinity to create a spell slot for the casting. You must expend the number of Channel Divinity uses equal to the spell's level. Okay, that's actually really cool. Did they used to be able to do this? No, this is like all new stuff. All right. At least from the OG, not from the playtest. Well, yeah, so as part of casting Abjuration spell, which now all healing spells are basically, they were saying, at least on the divine list, you can expend uses of Channel Divinity to create a spell slot to use for casting it. So if you want to cast a level 1 spell and you have a Channel Divinity left, you can use it. That's cool. Blessed Healer. Healing spells you cast on others heal you as well. Immediately after you cast a spell with a spell slot, always important because there are ways to cast spells without. And it's interesting. So here at under Preserve Life, it doesn't say you can cast it without using a spell slot. You can create a first level spell slot to cast the spell. So you're still using a first level spell slot, which means Blessed Healer works with Preserve Life. This wording, it's a little pedantic, but it's really important. So I'm glad they did it. Immediately after you cast a spell with a spell slot that restores hit points to one creature other than you, you regain hit points equal to 2 plus the spell slot's level. Again, Goodberry doesn't mess with that then. And then Supreme Healer. Oh, man, that's a big jump. From 6th to 17th? Was there actually no subclass features in between? Huh. Is that the same on Bard? Did Bard have that big of a jump? And I just didn't see it? Scrolling. Bard subclass. All right, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th, 14, 16, 18, 19, 20. And then the subclass, 6, 14, interesting. 614. So then Cleric jumps 6th to 17th, but then has a bunch of stuff in between. Interesting. Okay. That's a bit of an aside, but I just had to check that. All right, so yeah, Life, Cleric, Supreme Healing. Normally roll 1 or more dice to restore hit points. Just use the highest amount possible. That's really cool, but I don't think that's changed too much. All right. Yeah, I like that. It clarifies a bunch of things rather than changing a bunch of things. I don't think a lot of this stuff, it's interesting to me. It seems like when I looked at, and I'm going to end up repeating this when I get to probably the end of this thing. When I looked at the original, like the last playtest form that I looked at, not the original, but the first one that I looked at, it felt like a big overhaul. This feels more like tweaks, which puts it a bit more in line. It's going to be a lot more compatible now that they've done that. But it does feel more tweaked than complete rip it apart and piece it back together, right? Fighter and Barbarian with the additional martial stuff in terms of the masteries. That was the big change there, and like completely changes quite a bit of stuff there. Warlock being stripped down to nothing and rebuilt as a completely new type of class from what it was before, where it gets rid of the short rest and it's its own special like thing, and they had to worry about it as a subclass and stuff. This all feels a lot more like, yeah, cleric was good before, so we've just tweaked it to make like divine intervention work better. I have a suspicion I'm going to be seeing a lot more of that, which I might do one more class after this. We'll see how long these domains take. Light domain, yeah, blazing fire and stuff. Cool. So this was part of the original. Bonus cantrip has been replaced by divine order. Yeah, so this unlike the light domain that I think had some changes in the previous UAs, this has more changes based on changes compared to the original. Domain spells contain several different spells fleshed out. The list with options that emphasize revelation. Oh yeah, because this is the level 1 thing doesn't exist, so that makes sense. Warding flare now has improved flare rolled into it, allowing the cleric to use the feature on themselves and their allies. Interesting. Revealing light is a new 6th level feature, so that's gonna be important. Potent spell kind of replaced by, but yeah, so that doesn't matter as part of the subclass. Oh, that's probably why there's a whole bunch of stuff missing in between. Yeah, like it goes straight from 6th to 17th, is that some stuff in between got changed to being part of the base class, which I'm all for. Having the base class being, especially when it comes to a cleric, similar to wizard, right, where like the base class is the important part. Where something I think barbarians, fighters, ranger to an extent, a lot of the base class stuff is really cool, but the flavor added back in from the subclass, I think, really defines how you're building it, versus like a cleric is like, no, I am a cleric that happens to be this subclass, versus I'm this subclass that is a big part of my main. Anyway, you know what I mean, hopefully, but if not, you can disagree, it's fine. Domain spells, always prepared, and blah, blah, blah. Burning Hands, Fairy Fire, Moonbeam, See Invisibility, Daylight Fireball, Wall of Fire. Cool. Flame Strike, Scrying. Hopefully they made Flame Strike a bit better. Arcane, yeah, that's cool. All right. Warding Flare. Now, what has changed? Warding Flare has changed. Revealing Light. Okay. Hey, when a creature that you can see within 30 feet makes an attack roll, you can use your reaction to oppose disadvantage on the attack roll, causing life. Okay, you can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. I need to see this subclass to know what actually changed there. Light. Yeah, they changed a few of these, but not too much. But they took out some of the damaging ones and put some other stuff in. Warding flare. Flag. Oh, okay. So improved flare just became part of warding flare. That, as they stated, I didn't know what improved flare was. So improved flare was when you could use it on at range. So at level 1 or level 3, you can use it, which is why then they added something at level 6, which I think is good. Because that seems a little weak for being a level 6 edition. Radiance of the Dawn. Doesn't look like it had any changes. It's a magic. Oh, maybe. This could be new or something different. Oh, it's the Channel Divinity. I'd be curious because it's considered a magic action. If that's reflected in if they're going to make any changes to counterspell, like can counterspell prevent the Channel Divinity. But anyway, so any magical darkness is dispelled. Radiant damage. This sounds very similar to what we had before. 2d10 plus your cleric level on a failed save or half as much on a successful. And it's on creatures of your choice. That seems actually pretty powerful. That's cool. All right. But again, I think it's fairly similar to what was going on before. Revealing Light is the new feature. As a bonus action, you can present your holy symbol and cast See Invisibility without expending a spell slot. When you cast it this way, your allies also gain the benefit of this spell while within 10 feet of you. Until the spell ends, you emit a bright light. Okay. I like some of this wording. So you cast See Invisibility. It is on yourself. As long as they are staying within 10 feet of you, they also have it. It's not if they are within 10 feet of you, you also cast it on them. Yeah. Cool. All right. And then jumps to 17. The magic action, you can cause yourself to emit an aura of sunlight that lasts for 1 minute or until you dismiss it. Your enemies in the bright light have disadvantage on saving throws against your Radiance of the Dawn and any spell that deals fire or radiant damage. Interesting. So you can cast Radiance of the Dawn in this to give them disadvantage. Yeah, because it used to probably be spells that did fire, but now they said, no, we're going to add this to it specifically. No action is required to dismiss it. I would be curious. If no action is required to dismiss it, can they do that at any point? I think that is my reading on this, because if there's no action required to dismiss it, then it doesn't require your bonus action and stuff. You might be able to do it off of your turn. I'd have to double check that, but that's what I'm seeing. Trickery Domain. Alrighty, everybody's favorite thanks to Jester. And because it's fun and troublesome. Domain spells updated. Cool. Blessing of the Trickster can target someone up to 30 feet away. And clerics can use it on themselves. Focus duplicity no longer requires concentration. That's a big change. Okay. Requires a bonus action rather than action. This is buffed to hell. That's really good. Trickster Magic, new feature that replaces Cloak of Shadows, which was poorly rated, and domain spells now includes invisibility. Okay. Divine Strike, yeah. Improved duplicity, was poorly rated and now has entirely new functionality. So they've overhauled this subclass quite a bit. Cool. Just for the sake of it, let me bring up the old one because I might need that then. Invoke duplicity. As an action, create a perfect illusion of yourself. It lasts for 1 minute or until you lose concentration. As if you were concentrating on a spell. Yeah, that is going to be a big change if that's gone. Appears in an unoccupied space you can see within 30 feet. As a bonus action on your turn, you can move the illusion. It must remain within 120 feet of you for the duration. You can cast spells though you were in the illusion space. But must use your own senses. So if you can't see what your illusion sees, you can't attack. Additionally, when you both 5 feet of a creature. Okay. What's the teleport thing then? That might come up later. Yeah, Cloak of Shadows was terrible. I'm glad it's gone. It can vanish. All right, let's see what's actually going on here then. So, Charm Person, Disguise. Okay, cool. Yeah. Again, they're front loading the free spells at 3rd level because you didn't get them at level 1. Which is cool. I think a lot of these other ones have stayed the same. Hold monster, mislead. Dominate person, modify memories. They changed a bit of them, but nothing too crazy. I don't really feel like getting into the nitty gritty of exactly which spells are in which camp because I haven't looked over the spell list just yet. Blessing of the Trickster. That's the same as before. Invoke Duplicity. Bonus action, which is awesome. And you can expend 1 use of your channel limit. Teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. You create a perfect visual illusion of yourself in the space you left. The illusion lasts for 1 minute, but it ends early if you are incapacitated or if you dismiss it as a bonus action. You can cast spells, but you must use your own senses, so you can't see through it. You can cast spells through it, but you can't see or hear through it. Distract, that was that other thing you can do. And it takes your bonus action to make it move. And you can, as part of the bonus action, swap places with it, which is really cool. So if somebody figures out which one of you is the illusion, you can swap places with it as part of a bonus action. And it doesn't say... Yeah, the teleport thing I think is new. Unless I'm missing something on the original. But that is awesome. Everything about this makes this... it makes me want to play a Trickster Cleric. Which is a good sign. Anytime I want to play it because of what I'm seeing, is... That's a big step in the right direction. The distract thing is all well and good. Yeah, but I don't know how much attacking I would be doing. But yeah, that is actually everything about this is a huge improvement and makes this actually a much more core element of how the class functions, as opposed to this cool thing you can do to maybe trick a creature once. Being able to switch places with it. They're actually taking a page out of the Echo Knight. The Echo Knight could swap places with its Echo at will, or like during its turn or something like that. So they basically took that idea and said, "Oh, let's give it to clerics too, because that makes perfect sense for this class and for it like screwing with things." The only thing I would say, DMs, if you're playing this with a so here's your DM and you as the DM, right? Whether you're the player or the DM, it's going to be tricky to decide which thing to attack at any given time, right? So me as the DM, I know which one is your illusion because you have told me. That is how it generally works. You are attacking through it, etc. I have to make sure to keep you in line of like, no, if you can see, like if one of your versions of you can't see this creature, like then I truly need to know which one's which. And I can't have it that when I attack one of them, you say, oh, but that was my duplicate. I need to know that it's your duplicate. I would say, if at all possible, have yourself 2 minis that have 2 different colors and have like a coin type thing that has 2 different colors on it that is like hidden under like a coaster that your player decides, and your player like lifts it and is like, no, that's the color I picked, right? Because you as the DM may have a hard time one, keeping track of everything while keeping it fair, and 2, in your head, you have to decide, like there's no saving throw to know which one's which by the look of it, so you have to decide, does this creature know? And if they don't have a way of seeing that, then you either roll for it off of something you've made up in your own head, or you decide which one they attack. And it's hard to make that choice without having a certain level of bias, whether you're like a mean, bad DM that really wants to see your players get injured, or you're like super nice and it's like, well, I don't want it to seem like I'm purposefully making their cool ability less useful. No, there's ways around it, but that's just something I noticed there. So Trickster's Magic is a new feature that replaces Cloak of Shadows. Okay. All right, so if you cast a spell from the Illusion School using a spell slot, again, really important verbiage there, change the spell's casting time to a bonus action for this casting, provided the spell's casting time is normally in action. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. You regain all expended uses. So it's not the most, like, it's not overpowered by any means. It just lets you cast a spell as a bonus action instead of an action, but then you can either like attack or use a cantrip, or if you have something else going, you can make it do that. This is fine. Yeah, and then you can regain them on a long rest. Yeah, that's fine. Improved Duplicity was poorly rated, is now entirely new, or has an entirely new functionality. What was it before? 4 duplicates instead of 1. When you invoke as a bonus action on your turn, you can move any number of them 30 feet to a maximum range of 120 from you. Okay, which is fine. Again, if your DM knows exactly which one's you, then they have to then come up with a way of determining whether the bad guy does know that or not, and how they, and yeah, you being able to switch between them is interesting now as well. The illusion to invoke duplicity is growing more powerful. When you create it, you can teleport up to 120 feet rather than 30 feet, and when you move it, you can move it up to 60 feet rather than 30. In addition, when you are Allies make attack rolls against a creature within 5 feet of the illusion. They have advantage. Finally, the illusion ends. You or a creature of your choice within 5 feet regain number. Yeah, so they just buffed the crap out of it just to make it worthwhile. It's a cool subclass. It makes me want to play it because there's a whole bunch of shenanigans you can get up to. I'm here for it. Then I believe, last but not least, War Domain. I'm actually surprised at how many subclasses they put out. Like I said, it seems more like they're just tweaking old stuff rather than putting out a bunch of new, and I'm okay with it. War Domain has many manifestiva. Oh, okay, this is just a general description. Updates from the player's handbook. I might actually know some of these. So replaced by, yeah. Interesting. So yeah, they swapped out some stuff there. War Priest now let you use the mastery property of a weapon. In addition, the bonus attack recharges on a short rest, not a long rest. It doesn't have to be paired with an attack action anymore. Ooh. I like everything I'm seeing there. Guided Strike now lets you benefit yourself or another creature, and it's triggered by missing, ensuring there's a greater chance of causing an attack to hit. Interesting. Ward's God's Blessing has been redesigned to allow the cleric to protect allies. The former functionality of this feature has been incorporated into Guided Strike. Cool. That went away because it's become part of the thing. Okay. Avatar of Battle. Oh, you know what? I think these Divine Strike things, I think it used to be, hey, you get this, and now it's like, hey, you get to pick between one of the two as part of the base class, and I'm all for it. I haven't played a cleric high enough to really pay attention. Avatar Battle now provides resistance to all bludgeoning, piercing, not just non-magical versions. That is really important, especially for a 17th level thing. Yeah, so basically non-spell attacks for the most part. All right. Oh, time for me to sit up straight. And hit the ground running on these. So they have changed a bit of the spells up by the sound of it. Crusader's Mantle's awesome. They said Destructive Wave has replaced Flame Strike, I think they said, which is good. I don't know why it was there in the first place. Yeah. Yeah, because I think Flame Strike is already in a different domain's gifted spells, so. War Priest. Your training with weapons allows you to use your mastery property of one kind of simple or martial weapons. Whenever you finish a long, which you have proficiency for, whenever you finish a long rest, you can change the kind of weapon you chose to another eligible kind. Again, if you haven't seen my mastery video, I was really worried that the mastery stuff was going to be set and forget, and it was going to be a pain in the ass, but because you can change it on long rests, it keeps things interesting, because then you can't just pick up a new weapon and you can use the mastery, but at the same time, if you find a cool new weapon and it's like, oh, but this one is a longsword and I use a mace, it's like, okay, tomorrow I can use the longsword. And that's cool. So they get to do one at a time, but that's okay. And then they can do the bonus action attack, which I'm glad this is moved to level 3. I saw so many guides for my Spore Druid that were like, oh yeah, take 1 level of War Cleric, because then you get these bonus actions, and it means that all of a sudden at level 5, you're going to be doing more damage than like anything else in the game. And I'm like, oh. But they don't want to be a War Cleric. So, yeah, so you can make 1 weapon attack as a bonus action. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, and you get it back on a short rest. Now, this is different than dual wielding. Dual wielding, you can use your bonus action to make a second attack, but you cannot add your modifier to the damage. So this you can. And if you're not dual wielding, because most clerics are going to sword and board it, yeah, this is actually really nice, and this is good. Allowing the war priest to do that. Guided strike. When you see a creature, if you misses an attack roll, you can use your reaction to expend your channel divinity to give the roll plus 10, potentially causing it to hit. So you can do this after you've seen that it missed. Now, was that the case before? Yeah, before was when you saw them make the attack roll. You can make it after you hear what the roll is, but before the DM says whether it misses or not. So, which always annoying, because again, that would hold up combat every time of like somebody doing the calculation. Okay, I rolled a 15. Does anybody remember what their AC is? Or you rolled a 15. Does anybody remember the AC? Because I need, right? And me being able to say, no, that misses. And you being able to say, I add my guided strike to it to make sure that it hits, or to hopefully, right? Pretend like it doesn't instantly make it hit, but if somebody rolls like a 15 and I can't remember, does that miss or does that hit? And then you use it and it's like, well, you didn't actually have to use it, right? This is just better. And it keeps things moving. It does make it a bit easier for the players in some respects, but it keeps things moving. Whenever you cast Shield of Faith on another creature, the spell also affects you. Huh. Okay, so the guided strike used to be only you, and then when you got it here, it became you could use it on your allies. Now, War God's Blessing, instead of allowing you to use that thing on your allies, because that's warped into there, lets you cast Shield of Faith on you and another target. And you can cast it without expending a spell slot. Yeah, this is great. Because Shield of Faith, it is concentration. It is a low-level spell, but being able to just, hey, I cast it for free. You do drop it when you break your concentration. But knowing that you might have to do that and being able to just do it without affecting your spell slots can be really nice. Avatar of Battle, already discussed. Okay. That is sweet. So, final thoughts on Cleric and subclasses. It's a weird feeling, similar to Bard, where I can really tell that they are altering it and like tweaking it rather than doing a complete overhaul like they did on some of the other classes, which is fine, right? Some of those other classes needed a bit of an overhaul, especially with some of the changes that they kind of wanted to make. Made them a bit more interesting, gave them some extra stuff they can do without messing with anything too heavily. So yeah, everything I see here I like without it being too drastic either. Yeah, I'm liking everything I'm seeing here. Does it make me want to play a Cleric? Well, kind of. The changes to Channel Divinity, because Channel Divinity was always like a cool thing that you should just never rely on, where now it is a cool thing that you can rely on in a pinch. is really interesting. I am curious because it sounds like you can cast any spell that doesn't require a reaction, which might, and then it's cast as part of the action. So does a spell that takes 24 hours to cast happen instantly? It might. And if that is the case, it makes Channel Divinity super powerful and really, 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 really versatile. If it isn't the case, and it's like going on, because they don't, it's tricky because they don't specify action or reaction. They say that doesn't take, or sorry, action, bonus action. They specifically say that doesn't require a reaction. So cast time 10 minutes, but is cast as part of the action. I think it just instantaneously happens, is my reading. I might add to my feedback on this that I could use some clarification on that. But yeah, so that's pretty sweet. Yeah. The Channel Divinity, I think, is like the biggest change that I'm seeing. Other than, and again, I guess they did this in the previous rendition of their changes. They had shifted some things around. They've somewhat shifted them back, but they've made the subclass happen at level 3. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit for myself. I'm going to scroll down to Druid, because Druid was level 2 initially. I'm curious now. Druid subclass is now level 3. Okay. That answers that. And Primal Order is level 1. So they've kind of done something similar probably there. I'm going to assume if they've split the subclass and the like early level stuff up a little bit. Which I'm okay with, because for multi-classing purposes, like I said, a whole bunch of guides were like min-maxing the crap out of taking one level in War Domain, or one level in this, one level in that, because you get the subclass right away, and it has this extra... Now, I do want more encouragement for multi-classing, which I think they're doing by having this stuff here, but some of that was getting a little... It was only for build purposes, very little RP stuff. Like, if you make all the multi-classing good, then it's easier to pick it based on role-playing versus what's just going to make you the most powerful. But yeah, now subclass-wise, because they're just doing mild changes and improving things, like all of the subclasses sound better. I like every change I see. I think basically they're getting rid of stuff that people probably just weren't using a whole lot and making it so they'll use them a whole lot. But because it's not the drastic changes, it's not like blowing my mind. I've heard some of the other classes on here will make that happen. We'll see if I get to those later today. I might let my voice rest and do the rest of these on like Tuesday, because I think I've got a lot of free time that day. But overall, yeah. I think what they've done to Cleric is good. They cut out some of the fat. They made multi-classing in it easier, but by moving the subclass stuff to level 3, they're making it less of a, I'm going to take this one level dip, not because it fits my character, but because it gives me this bonus attack on my offhand, or not offhand, on my bonus action, X amount of times per day and blah, blah, blah. Like it really, it just clears it up. A lot of stuff is class-based rather than subclass-based, which I'm kind of okay with. It would be nice to have something... Divine Intervention is there. Abilities... I don't even know. Because again, this is a caster class that the levels that I'm like, there's nothing here, are getting the new spell slots at that level, right? There's no, there's nothing here at 13th level, but that's when you get your 7th level spell slot. So I think, without playing through one myself, I have a strong suspicion that every level is going to feel really good. The multi-classing is fine, and yeah, overall, I think they've done good. So I will be back to do the rest of these because I believe up next is going to be Druid. Now, just for my own sanity, so we did Bard Cleric. Oh God, there's so many more. But I started talking about a bunch of other stuff to start, so we'll be able to plow through some of these other ones a bit quicker. Though Druid looks like it's drastically changed from used to. Paladin, who knows? Monk, I've heard, is like buffed but nerfed. I've heard tell they've kind of fixed Stunning Strike so that it's not the only option. But I'll get to that. So I will see you next time.